Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, today I'm going to talk about a subject. It's a video I just found. Let's see if I have it up right now. I do not, so I got to pull it up. Hold on. Okay, so this video is something that I've never even heard of, but when they were describing it, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going through. Now, I just came across a video. It says, is Inanna the real reason for Jesus' fame? Now, number one, I don't care, okay? Number two, I don't believe in Inanna in the sense of, oh, she's this goddess or whatever. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't, I don't really care. As I was watching the video, there's something that really stood out to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what I've been going through. So it goes on to say that Inanna, this beautiful person or being or spirit or whatever she is, Inanna must go through 7 gates, okay? And each is protected by a fearsome, let's see if it says God or what does it say? Hold on. By a fearsome gatekeeper. So essentially she has to go through her worst fears, and these are not just her fears. It's a series of fears that you have to get through. Now, she's already considered a very, very powerful being, goddess or whatever. Now, I don't really like the word goddess because most people that say it, they sound egotistical, which means they're coming from their forehead ego and not from their heart, okay? So to me, what that means is this is a right brain, emotionally connected being, someone who's emotionally grounded and tuned in to her environment, to herself, and to spirit. Now, when I say her, I don't mean her in this video or the person I'm talking about. I mean even you, if you're tuned in, emotionally grounded, and down to earth. Now, the story I'm about to share, I'm going to share a very little brief part of it. I'm not even going to go like much from the video because it just instantly reflected on like, oh yeah, that's what I've been going through for decades. So essentially, she has to go through these 7 gates that are guarded by these really fearsome gatekeepers, okay? You're not allowed to just walk through. It's you essentially, I'm going to say it this way, but it's not really this way. It's the complete opposite. So I'll say this way first, and then I'll say the other way. So essentially, you have to prove yourself. You have to dig deep and dig into some like metal, some courage, and some, what's the word? It's like you have to prove yourself, but you don't prove yourself. You really don't dig in deep. But you have, man, how to explain this? I'll explain it. So let me stumble this way and then I'll explain it. Okay, the music is going to go down in about 5 seconds. So essentially, you have to prove to this gatekeeper that you are. It's not only that you're worthy, but that you have developed, earned, and or cleared and let go of all that negativity of that level. So there's a certain level of, let's call it fear, limiting beliefs, shame, guilt, all of that stuff, trauma, that you have to let go of before he'll let you through. Now, if you've studied or heard or just watched a YouTube video about what they do down in, I forget the country, there's probably Brazil, but then there's like Central American countries that do it. Okay, there was these guys that went down there for the spiritual journey, and they were kind of investigating, like, is it real, is it not? And what happened was they had to work with this, I'm going to call it a shaman. I don't believe that's what they called him in this particular video. But what he did, he had this wooden pipe and he blew this, like, I think it was like a green powder from a certain plant up his nose, and he blew it up, and then goes, oh, and the guy like kind of ran away, and he was tears were pouring because it burns like really, really bad. And it makes you puke, it makes you throw up, it makes you, clears your sinuses for really good. And it's a really intense experience. Well, what they said, well, why did you do that to him? And he said, because he can't go upriver unless his spirits are cleaned out, because otherwise they'll get him or kill him or something like that. Here's how everything works, whether you learn it from Jesus, whether you learn it from Buddha, whether you learn it from a living. The energy that you carry is what you're going to bring into your life. Like attracts like. Good attracts good. Bad attracts bad. Evil attracts evil. Spiritual attracts spiritual. Heavenly attracts heavenly. Wealthy attracts wealthy. Now, one of the biggest ways that I started to believe this was because I was doing all kinds of spiritual stuff, and it was like, yeah, this is kind of my nature, the way I was. It was money that was always kind of my issue. Like, money was never an easy thing for me. No matter how many hours of work, whether it's 14 hours a day, blah, 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 going to college on top of it, getting 3 hours of sleep a night. So I started, they said, look, you get what you focus on because it creates that dynamic energy. So I started reading books like Think and Grow Rich, and another one is The Magic of Believing. And I noticed as I would read these books, as long as I did every day for 20 minutes or more, I would get a new client or money would come in the door. I'd get a check in the mail from someone I never even knew. I'm like, well, what is this? And it was the weird, or I'd find, like, that was the first time I found like $100. Like, I'd never found even more than $3 or a $5 bill at the most. And I started noticing whenever I would read this book at least 3 days or more, boom, money would come in the door somehow, some way. So then I was like, okay, there's something to this. So through NLP and the hypnosis trainings I went through, you started to understand that your emotional state is what creates your life. So whatever emotions / energy that you see, emotions are energy. That's really what we should call it, is emotions. Your emotions create your reality. So whatever emotions you walk around in, that's what, see, that's why, why does so-and-so always get picked on? Or why does so-and-so always have problems with a certain thing? But this person has never had that problem. And yet they go into the same store, say the same thing, look the same way, like everything's the same except for their energy. All right, so let's say, even if you don't believe in this, that's totally fine, but it's a really good metaphor to help you understand what I mean. Let's say in one of your past lives, you were a slave, okay? But then in another one, you were a king and people admired you. So it's kind of like you're walking around and you go from one state of feeling like a slave, and people literally treat you that way. And I mean in this life, and yet in this life you were never a slave, okay? But then there's other moments where you're in this other energy and people just admire you. They treat you like a king. They're really nice and respectful. And you're like, wait, what's going on here? Like, I don't understand. Like, why is it like an hour ago people would treat me that way and now they're treating me? It's really bizarre. It's because you're carrying different energies that you rotate through. Now, this is all a logical understanding at this point. So I've done a lot of energy healing. I've gone to a lot of energy healers. So people used to yell at me all the time. I mean, it was kind of nuts. It was kind of weird. Like, okay, I'll give you a real solid example. I started dating this girl from Puerto Rico. She was here getting her doctorate degree. A girl, she was 26, and she drove crazy. And she goes, "Oh, that's the way we drive in Puerto Rico." And her and a friend were just laughing. She was running red lights. She was cutting people off. And here's the thing. Nobody honked at her, and I live in an area that everyone honks at any excuse. I mean, it is weird. When I moved here, I was like, why is everyone honking? It's like, it's a small city. And so there's so much tension here that people honk and honk and honk at anything. Well, here's the really weird thing. Nobody ever got mad at her. Nobody honked at her, even though she would just right in front of a car through a red light, and they would barely miss her, and they wouldn't even get mad. And now I'm thinking like, wow, that is just, and I said, man, even if I'm at a red light waiting for the red light and I'm behind the line, people will start like honking at me, yelling at me. She's, oh, come on. And so she drove around a little bit crazy and a little more. And then we pulled into a gas station and she goes, hey, Mike, why don't you drive? So we got some gas and I'm like, really? Okay. Well, she had this really tall thing that headrest, right? So it was above my head. So from behind, you couldn't see who was in the seat. I get into the car, I close the door, and I didn't even get my seatbelt on, and a car pulls in and starts honking at me, just laying on the horn. And it was their daughter actually, her and her daughter just started cracking up. They go, God, what a coincidence. So I start to pull out. I'm not even to the street yet. I'm not even to the sidewalk that you have to cross to get to the street. A car goes by and just lays on its horn. I'm like, see what I mean? I'm at a complete stop. I'm waiting patiently. I'm way behind the entry area. And they're like, and they're just laughing hysterically, like, oh my God. I pull out. I am way ahead of the cars behind me, and the car behind me, about 20 car lengths behind, just floors it, speeds it up, it gets on my ass and starts laying on the horn. And she goes, wow. She goes, I remember when we were in your car, I kept hearing people honking. She goes, I just thought that was coincidence. Now, I brought this up with my energy healer. She says, well, it's an energy, you're carrying, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this was a long time ago. It was like 20 plus years ago, maybe even 24. Now, it wouldn't be about 21, 22. So here's the deal. A few years later, going through energy healing, it doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen. I can actually pull out in front of someone like, oh, it's okay. Like, they're super nice now. When I say it doesn't happen, it never happens anymore, like at all. Whereas before, it happened every single time I got in the car, every single time I got on the road, every time I pulled into the gas. I mean, every time. Now, here's when that did help me go, okay, there's something to this clearing. When you clear your layers and layers and layers of clearing your negative energy, like, okay, like I started having like, okay, this is real. Like I had a real experience. Okay, this is different. It's not happening anymore. That is cool. But I didn't really believe it until I was in a very open, spacious, grounded energy. I was in a really good mood. I'm walking down the sidewalk behind this gym I go to. There's a parking lot just about 20 feet ahead of me. And I'm just walking on, and I noticed this younger guy, probably 25, 28. And he's a little bit smaller than me. He's kind of hanging his head. He's kind of looking down. He avoided eye contact. Here's the weirdest thing. I went from being in a very calm, relaxed, deep breathing, just open, spacious mood, in a really, really good mood. And as he got closer, I'm talking about 10 feet or less, all of a sudden I kind of looked at him and I kind of had this pissy attitude towards him, like, who's this guy? Screw this guy. And I'm starting to think this stuff. And he passes me by and went, whoa, what the hell happened? I was like, why did I do that? I mean, I saw him coming. He gave me plenty of space. He didn't do anything rude at all. And I was like, what the hell happened? That was so weird. I felt really bad that now he didn't see me. But I looked over at him. I looked down on him like, weird. Like, it was kind of a pissy, it was like I was angry at him. And I had absolutely no reason. And I was like, and as he walked further and further away, I went, whoa, like, wait, what happened? I was in a really good mood. He didn't do anything to me. He was dressed well, dressed nice. He wasn't like dirty or nothing at all. And yet my energy, my emotions, my state, it switched just like that. Now, do you guys remember Charlie Brown, the cartoon? Do you guys remember Pigpen? He was kind of the quiet kid, but he always had like this dirt around him that was like literally floating around and moving around like negative energy. So he's like this kid that always plays in the dirt, never takes showers, doesn't really care. And every time he walked around, he was kind of quiet and he was just kind of there and just had this dirt or dust or whatever floating around him. Well, that's exactly what it was like walking by that guy. He had this energy about him. When I walked through it or got close enough, I felt it. I realized as I walked by, like, oh, I bet a lot of people beat him down verbally, like, oh, you this and you that, and just for no reason at all get angry at him. And here's the thing, I remember looking as he walked away. He was a nice guy. He was very respectful. He gave me my space. There was nothing about him that he did that was negative. And I was like, I bet the reason why he's constantly looking down is because people are constantly berating him, saying something negative. Oh, you this and you that, and just beat him down. Like you could just see it. Now, here's the deal. When he's walking up from a distance, I saw him. I was like, oh, the guy's probably having a bum day, whatever. And I kind of felt sorry for him. But as he got close, I went from that to getting pissed off, which really shocked me. Because I was in this really uplifted, positive mood, and I actually had compassion for the guy, and it just, I was like, whoa, like, what was that? And so I remember, again, this was 20-some years ago, I called my manager. I was like, whoa, I've got to tell you something. And I explained it to her. I go, is that what you mean? That's why people are treated a certain way because of the energy that they carried. She goes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's why the Puerto Rican lady, nobody cared if she ran a red light, cut them. I'm telling you, the county I live in, people will honk at you for anything. And she's blowing my mind. I'm like, I don't understand. How come no one's mad at you? Like, you do it every time you drive, every time you go through traffic. You're always cutting people off. You're breaking the rules, and putting people in danger. And I'm like, no one gets mad. Like, what is this? I get in the car and the engine's not even on. It's still in park at the pump, and the guy behind me had two pumps. It wasn't like, I was like blocking him, and he lays on the horn, and I'm like, this is insane. I didn't even get to reach for my seatbelt yet. So eventually I ended up pulling over on the freeway because people kept honking at me. She said, you know what, let me drive. The minute she got in, all the honking ceased. Oh, she continued to drive herky-jerky all over the place, looking at her daughter, not even paying attention to the road, cranking the music up and just swerving in and out, almost hitting cars. No one got mad at all. Now, mind you, think, they could tell because it was a girl. No, I'm talking about the people that were behind. The way that car was designed, you couldn't see who was in the driver's seat. Now, a big part of what I do when I do energy healing is so remember Pigpen held all that dusty energy around him? That's one of the things that I sweep. We literally sweep through that. Now, Reiki, Huna, Pranic healing, they do different techniques in different ways. How I know this is because I've trained in each of them. I've also gone to healing sessions in each of them, and they're just different. So someone who's trained only in Reiki, well, what's that? I'm like, this clears your energy. They're like, what? That's not the way we do it. Like, well, yeah, because you don't do this. So if you've ever wondered, why do some people seem to just make money, and why are some people just really good at this, and why are some people just good talkers or orators? It's because they have an energy about them, or they don't have an energy about them. Literally. Number one, a lot of it is clearing out negative, mucky energy. Number two, it's about opening up your chakras. So if you don't speak well, it's because you have a closed chakra. You have to learn how to open it up. A lot of people that sing on their throats because they have a tight chakra there. Or a closed chakra. Like, I'll take someone who's talked like this all their life, and then I'll open up the chakra, and all of a sudden they're talking like me, more resonant, more open, the energy's flowing, versus talking all tight and, talking like this on the throat, singing on the throat. Miley Cyrus sings on her throat. Now, she's a great singer, but she's going to destroy her throat. Now, where I'm at, I can look at people, and it's almost like, okay, what's that thing that hides underneath the bridge, like the town troll or whatever? So you can see people who just kind of like that guy that walked by me. He felt like the town troll. It's an energy, and as long as you have the energy, it's going to attract people that get away from me. That guy's just weird. He wasn't homeless by any means. He obviously had probably upper middle class parents. He had decent clothes on, et cetera, et cetera. Nice haircut, clean cut, etc. But he was still treated like the town troll or the town drunk or the town. Now here's what happens. When you carry these energies with you, whether it came from a past life or maybe it was you were treated this way when you were a child and the energy locked in, you could have a doctorate degree and people will treat you that way. Now, this is why some people just thrive. For whatever reason, they don't have the limitations, they don't have the limiting energy or the limiting whatever, and they just thrive. Where some people can go to Tony Robbins seminars, go to therapy, go to coaching, and they don't shift. It's like they're constantly fighting this internal battle. This is why I do a combination of things. A lot of it is you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn rapport skills, okay? You learn rapport skills, that's one of the greatest things you can ever learn on the planet, because that'll help you move ahead in life, because people will understand you, you'll understand them, etc., etc. It creates rapport. People will like you, they don't know why. So this can help you even if you have that pig pen energy, or that energy that's, people like, they're going to treat you a certain way. But if you can gain rapport with people, that suddenly won't matter. So it's not like it's either or, one or the other. This is why I do both energy healing, communication coaching, therapy, newer therapies, etc. Because it's a combination of things. It's not just one thing. All right, now here's another thing. You can go to a physical therapist, right? So because I played sports, I've been in physical therapy a lot. I started competing when I was like 4 years old, all the way until I was probably 30, 31 years old, okay? I've been in physical therapy a lot. I've been to chiropractors a lot. And here's one thing I noticed. Some physical therapists heal you faster, better, using the exact same tools, the exact same ointments, and the exact same techniques. There was a physical therapist, Dr. Glenn Hughes, out of Napa. He was our physical therapist at Vintage High School for our wrestling and also for a championship football team. So I was kind of spoiled going to Glenn Hughes because he was just there. He was on the football field on the side, and if I got injured, he'd take me into the office or the next morning because I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning or immediately after practice or before practice, whatever. And so for 4 years of my life, I got to work with this guy, and I didn't know that I didn't know. He was just really good. And then I went away to Chico State, and they had a physical therapy department. That's where you go and get trained, you get your degree and all that stuff. And I was on the wrestling team, but in the first day I went in there, like, hey, they checked me out. Hey, your ankles pull out. And I'm like, what do you mean? They've always been like that. Like, yeah, you got to come in here and get your ankles taped every single day before practice. And I was like, yeah, screw that. And I didn't do it, and I never needed it. But they were right. They said, just relax your calf muscle. And they'd pull my heel all the way out. And they're like, that's not normal. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, watch this guy. His didn't budge. I'm like, are you serious? They're like, yeah, that's just bizarre. I've never seen. And they're like, hey, come here, look at this guy. So I got to go there. I got injured a couple times, and I didn't really heal, which is kind of really weird. It was like, I'm like, why is this taking so long to heal? Hell, Glenn Hughes is doing it in 3 sessions in about a week and a half. So eventually I went to Arizona State, and I went to some physical therapy there, chiropractic, etc. And I also noticed, like, what's the deal? Like, this wasn't like a student. This guy had his doctorate degree, been in practice for like 15 years. And I just like, man, why is it going so slow? And then I went back to Napa, and I had an injury, and I just went to the hospital and said, hey, does Glenn Hughes still work here? And he said, hey, Mike, come on down. He didn't even charge me. He worked on me, and it was just the same thing. I'm like, why is it that when I work with this guy, and I even told him, he thought I was complimenting him. I'm like, no, Glenn, it's really obvious. Whenever I work with you, I heal a lot faster. He loved his work. His intention was into it. His energy was into it. For whatever reason, he was born with the energy to heal. He never took an energy healing class. In fact, he probably wouldn't even believe in that kind of stuff. He's a very left-brain, Western-minded guy. But he was also a fairly sensitive person, tuned in. And that's one thing you notice with Glenn. He wasn't like a machine. He treated you like a human. You felt cared for. He had kind of a nurturing sense about him. And because of that, you healed better. Now, here's another thing I noticed, and then later on I heard it. I would go to this one hair cutter. My hair would grow faster and thicker every time I'd go to her. And I noticed that because I got my hair cut from other people. Like, wow, this is really, for some reason my hair is growing faster. And she's like, yeah, okay, cool. And so then eventually someone in her office said, yeah, well, she's got healing hands. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, her energy naturally flows from her hands. So whenever she cuts people's hair, it causes their hair to grow faster and thicker, etc. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, dude. I kind of like laughed because I was a young guy. I think I was like 17 or 19. I forget how old I was. And then I ended up going to another hair cutter, and my hair didn't grow as fast. I'm like, okay, what's the deal? And then I went to another one, same thing. Went to another, moved out of state. And then I came back home, and it was the same thing. I went to the same hair cutter. Boom, my hair started growing again. It started growing faster and thicker. So pay attention to when you go to healers, whether it's Western healer or not, how well it goes and how well it works. So let's get back to, how do we say that? Inanna, okay? They call her a goddess. I believe, now this is talking about the Syrian Empire, etc. If I understand this correctly, this was actually a real person, a real being, who was actually in power at the time. Now, even if it's just a metaphor story, but I don't think it is, because they found the writings on the wall, like literally on an actual wall, and some other stuff. So this is like if I'm understanding this correctly, a historical figure. So what happened is she was going to this place, to the underworld, to meet her sister. And essentially what happened is at each of these gates, she had to relinquish a symbol of her power. She had to relinquish a piece of her earthly identity and a symbol of her heavenly power. So she's essentially letting go of her power and a piece of who she is, or who she identified as. And at each gate, she had to do this and let go of more and more and more. More of her power and more of her earthly identity of who she saw herself as. Now, essentially, you become more and more vulnerable because she had to let down her shield and let down her, her warrior, her armor, and then it was her sword, and then it was whatever. So she's becoming more and more, not only vulnerable physically, but emotionally, because she's letting go of the identity that basically covers up her soul. So At each gate, Inanna is stripped bare both literally and metaphorically. So her crown, her jewels, and her weapons, and even her power. So as she continues down this path going through each gate, she's becoming less and less of who she is, or who she was, or who she thought she was, and at the same time she's becoming more and more vulnerable. So by the 7th gate, it says she is stripped of all of her power, all of her earthly possessions, and outward signs of her power. Now, I noticed when they said that, the word outward, and I'm like, yeah, because her power really is inside. The external power is very limited power. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because this is the course that I teach. Internal awareness is internal power. So the course, I call it internal awareness and or emotionally grounding, okay? When you learn how to connect within, you become emotionally grounded, and this is how you physically, neurologically, and electrically connect to your power. That's what this is all about. So now you're going, okay, so wait a minute, is that why some people tend to move forward in life? Yes. There are actual physical, visual, and energetic techniques that I will teach you, and we will go over and over and over it. So if there is enough of you that want to take this course, we can set it up at a hotel or in a speaking space, etc. You guys can fly in or come in or whatever. But I have to have enough people. So if you're interested, you have to let me know so I can set this up. And yes, I also do this in one-on-one coaching. So then it goes on to say that Inanna is, how does she say? Inanna's descent through the 7 gates wasn't just a physical journey. It was a stripping away of her ego, her attachments, and her worldly identity. So everything she let go of, from her crown to her jewels, etc., symbolized something she was letting go of. The crown is letting go of the external power over other people. Now you might be saying, but wait a minute, I thought you were talking about power. Internal power. When you strip away the external, now you have internal power, which is true power. It's your power for you, not over others. The whole idea is to let go of your attachment. So when you try to control other people, have power over them, you have this external energy reaching out, trying to control all these people, and that's called attachment. And therefore you're getting jerked around. That's not true power. That's false power. Internal power, to create your own creations in your own life, is true power. And people will really respect that because you're not messing with other people. You're just doing your own thing in your own world, in your own life. And it's and people respect that power. It's kind of it's almost a joyful kind of experience to watch someone who's truly connected to their own power within. One thing you notice is people who try to constantly control other people, yell and scream and, just control, is they're actually very powerless people. So they try to hide it or make up with it by doing some kind of external form of power. Because they don't have power. So her necklace, adorned with precious stones, symbolizes our social connections and our attachments to the material world. So a lot of you may have noticed going through this narcissist abuse, it's like spiritual, it's toxic, it's traumatic, it's trauma, is you start to notice that you get isolated. And what happens is you're letting go of stuff. You're letting go of the external world. So you're also letting go of because a lot of us, I know I did, I let go of almost all of my friends, all of my connections, and people in my life. And I know a lot of you are going through that right now. You feel alone, you feel isolated. I'm telling you, it's not punishment. You're letting go of attachments. See, when you connect externally to people, you get jerked around, but when you let go of that, now you're free and you can come and go as you please. You're spiritual, you're connected to God, etc., etc. It's a much better place to be. And eventually you will make healthier, and I don't want to use the word connections because now you're attached again, but you're going to make better friends. And it's like you're going to be around people without having to be connected to them. So now you're free to come and go as you please. Okay, so one of the things I will teach you is how to ground your energy. So most people, okay, I'll draw a circle and call that the earth, and I'll draw little people stick figures around the earth. Most people will connect forehead to forehead, throat to throat, or heart to heart. That's generally where most people will connect. Well, that's a bond. That's a chain. It's kind of like imprisonment. Okay, you're connected to this person. You can't get away. And a lot of people are like, but Mike, aren't you supposed to be connected to your friends and family? Blah, blah, blah. Not that way. That's horizontal. You want it to be vertical. You want to drop your cord down into the core of the earth and connect with the center of the earth. And if everybody does that, we're all connected. But up on the top of the planet, we can walk around freely to come and go as we please. That is the Garden of Eden. That's the way God always meant for it to be. Because when you connect forehead to forehead, heart to heart, etc., in this horizontal way, it causes a tug of war. It causes a battle, this constant push and pull energy. Whereas when you drop your cord down, now you have neutral energy. And when you have that neutral energy, people are going to look at you differently because there's something different about you, but they're not really sure what it is. Because their whole life, they've experienced people are either using left brain push energy or right brain pull energy. What I'm going to teach you how to do is to gain neutral energy, where now you're not attached to anyone or anything around you. This is what Jesus meant when he says, let go of things. He didn't mean you had to get rid of it. He just meant don't be attached to it. Don't let it control you, because that will become a tug of war. It's like, okay, your awareness is around your own space and around your own energy. But what most people, they'll concentrate their energy, it's like a string or a laser beam that reaches out and connects to a person or connects to a car or to a house. Now you have attachment. When you let go of the attachments, now you are free to have more. More everything. More love, more happiness, more joy, more wealth, more things, more everything. See, people don't understand the Bible. Jesus wasn't talking about not having a car, not having a sword, or not having a house, or not having a wife. You can have all of those things, but first you have to strip all of your external power and let all of that go. Now, it's really scary because now here's the deal. When I walk around people, they will suddenly open up, and what happens is people tend to, we have this thing in us, I'm going to call it a rapport gaining machine, where we become like the people that we're talking to. So we gain rapport, and what happens is they feel free, and then when I walk around, because it's kind of scary, because it's like they're holding on to that tree or to that branch or to that rope, and they've never let go their entire life. And you come along in this neutral energy, and they join you in that energy without consciously being aware of it. And then at some point, whether you've talked to them for an hour or more, or maybe a little less, or if you walk away, they'll, whoa, what the hell is this? And they go back to clinging, and like, whoa, I don't want to be around that guy. I don't know what it is. There's something different. So as you go through these gates or through these phases, you're letting go of your fear, your shame, your guilt, and all this stuff. Now, here's the deal. It's not easy, because a lot of people lock down. They grab back to that rope. I'm not letting go of this. Those are the people who are living in fear. They refuse to let go because they're too afraid. The left brain is all about control. And that's what they're truly afraid to let go of. The left brain is the external brain. It's all about making external attachments. So as you come to, in this metaphor, each gate or each challenge, a fear will come up, whether it's shame, guilt, or some kind of physical fear, emotional fear, and it comes up to the maximum level, and you're, oh. And here's the deal. Most people clamp down and try to control it, and it just intensifies. The key is to lay down in bed, lay down on the ground, and completely let it go. Like, relax every muscle. It's not even about relaxing. You see, if you're trying to relax your muscle, you're doing it wrong. You just let go. And it is an art, and I can teach you how to do it better than I can explain it in a video. So as I'm listening to that video about what they call it, Inanna, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I've been doing for years. The 3D is a very limited illusion, or a better way of saying that is, okay, I've already told you in past videos that math and science and physics, they're very aware that there's multiple dimensions. There's the first dimension, second, and third dimension, which we learn in elementary and middle school because of math. But if you continue on, there's the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth. Like you go to college and you actually study math more in depth, or physics and science. And I think, I forget what it was, I think they know mathematically they've proven there's up to, I think it's either 11 dimensions or 14 dimensions. Now this is Western science I'm talking about. I'm talking when you go to college. I'm not talking spiritual stuff. This is Western science. So here's the deal. On the third dimension, we have, what's the word I want to use for it? It's like it's symbolic of what's on the fourth dimension, and that's symbolic of what's on the fifth, because it's the same thing, just at a higher level in a more expansive way. In order to go to the higher level, you have to let go of what you already know. And that is harder than you think. It's terrifying for most people, and they just won't do it. Okay, so as you notice, at each gate that she went to, she had to surrender something of her earthly possessions, her earthly goods, something of her power, her emotional power, her outward physical power, like a sword, or she was a queen of this entire country, and she gave that up. Like she gave up everything to where she had nothing, and she was nothing on the 3D external level. And that allowed her to gain more power on the next level, which is even greater power than anything on the third dimension. Think of it like this. It's like you are in this shell with shells around the shell, shells around that shell, around that shell. You have to let go of all these shells, but these shells, kind of like a little baby chicken is in a little eggshell, you're protected, and it feels protective, and it actually is protective to a degree, or it's an illusion really, because it's really not protective. Because these are your fears. And fears attract things that cause fear. These are your worries. These are your limiting beliefs. All of these things, like that kid, that pig pen kid, all of the things attract to you what you're afraid of. So if you're afraid of something, it's an energy. Like attracts like. So this energy, like a magnet, is going to attract the same energy to you. So letting go, it's funny because these are the very things that you want to let go of, yet you don't want to let go because it's all you know, and you want to cling to it because you're afraid, oh, if I let go, then I'm going to be vulnerable. No. You're letting go of the very things that are hurting you. Now here's the thing, everything I'm talking about, Buddhism talks about the same thing. They have in the temple enrichment from left to right the different phases that you go through, and on each phase it's kind of like the same thing where there's like this terrifying, powerful monster, like you got to get past this thing, and it's your fears, it's your guilt, it's your shame, it's the same thing, and I forget what they call that, but eventually you get up to enlightenment where you completely let go of all of it. Here's the deal, I actually believe, even though this is the first time hearing of it, in the physical 3D world, during the, what was it Syria, or I forget what I called it, I can't remember. So her name was Inanna. They called her a goddess. She was this powerful being, powerful person in the flesh. I truly believe that she physically was in the physical 3D flesh. I also believe that this same story has been used to show other people, metaphorically, how you get there. It's the same thing with Jesus. It's the same story. It's the same experience. Yet he did live in the flesh, and this experience was guiding us on how to get through what we're trying to get through here on the earth. You're here to heal and let go. Heal and let go. Let me tell you something. Up in heaven, they're all healed. Everyone gets along. It's very peaceful. There's just nothing but joy, pureness, clarity, understanding. It's a wonderful experience. It's wonderful energy. So at each gate, you have to let go of your fears. You have to let go of your limitations, because up there are no limitations. There is no fear. And you're not allowed there until you let go of all this stuff. It's kind of like that shaman that blew that green powder from some plant up that guy's nose. He had to clear out his evil demons, his fear, because fear will attract things to attack him. When you if you go to the higher level holding on to those fears, it's gonna, at the higher level, everything happens faster, it happens quicker, and it's more intense and more powerful. There's more energy. So if you're bringing your limitations and your fear into that level, it is going to hit you harder than anything that ever could have happened on this third dimension. So each gatekeeper represents a level. You are not allowed to go through to the next level until you let that stuff go on this level that you're supposed to before going to the next level, because otherwise it's going to hurt you. So if you remember The Secret, like remember when that video came out, The Secret, about the book, you read the book, it's about manifesting. One of the things they said is like, hey, it's totally okay to manifest something. In other words, on this level, the third 3D, this is how they imagine it. Like, so what would happen if you imagine an elephant while you're sitting in your room, and all of a sudden, boom, a big elephant was there and blew through your roof and your walls, and it pooped on your carpet floor in the living room? Well, on this level, it doesn't happen that fast. But when you go to each level, it happens faster and faster and faster. So your mind has to have more pure thoughts and be clearer. So you have to let go of all this negative stuff at each gate. This is truly another example or metaphor of what the book of Genesis was talking about, the Garden of Eden. At each level, the manifestations become faster and faster and faster. So your thoughts, your energy has to become purer and purer and cleaner and letting go of all the negative stuff. Just so you know, especially if you're following this channel for any length of time, you've had any interest in this channel for a month, or maybe you've watched 15 videos or more, your energy is matching with this channel, which means you've already gone through levels on this three-dimensional world. You have cleared stuff, you have let go of stuff, you have gone through trauma, and you've healed from that trauma, and that's like being at the gate. Until you heal it, you can't go through. Well, you eventually heal it, and now you move forward. You are moving forward and clearing. Here's the deal. My energy has been so healed, so expanded, that people will tell me, after they talk to me for 20, 30 minutes, I just feel so much better. I don't know what it is. I was told a long time ago by Buddha, and also an energy healer I've been going through for many, many years, and she says, Michael, your energy is so healed. When you walk into a restaurant, that it opens people up and they begin to heal. They're not even conscious of it. So if you've been following my videos for any length of time, you're going through clearings and healings. Now, people who have a lot of darkness, a lot of dark shadow stuff that they've never healed, and they've got it just, and they're hiding it, and they're still clinging on. The problem is when they get around me, they just kind of let go, and their energy opens up, their chakras open up, and then their stuff starts to come up. It's like a zit that's clogged. Well, you clear it, and then the stuff can come out. But when it's coming out, you're going through that emotional upheaval, and it's not very comfortable. So a lot of times, narcissists will go on the attack to try to close you down, so they don't have to open up. So if you have people yelling at you for no reason, sometimes it's because your energy is so open that it opens them up and it freaks them out. And what they're trying to do, it's not them consciously, it's an unconscious spiritual kind of thing. Like they're trying to close you down, because if they're around you, their energy will open up. And then they have to see who they are and what they are and deal with the next issues that's coming up. Whereas they spent their whole life smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, being a workaholic, an alcoholic, whatever, to distract them from dealing with any of this. They just keep shoving it down. Now here's the deal. It's not just me. A lot of you, again, if you're attracted to this channel and you feel a comfort level here, I bet you're already at a level that's high enough where people kind of freak out when you come into the restaurant. They don't know what it is. There's something about you. And a lot of times you get yelled at or shut down. It's because your energy is so open that it opens them up and they don't like it. It scares them. Or it makes them so uncomfortable. Like, yeah, I don't want to see that part of me. Well, the only way you can heal these parts of you is by receiving them openly with open arms, which means you have to learn to open up. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope this video was interesting. If you liked it, click the like button, click subscribe, go ahead and make a comment, and if you want, you can go ahead and leave a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.